welcome back to Lesson 3 in Creative Writing, specifically focusing on fiction. Again, this is Teacher Del. For today's lesson, we will be talking about the essential elements of poetry. So let's go to the first one. The first one is the theme. Just like any other literary pieces, it has a theme. So the theme is the central idea or main idea of the poetry. It can be about love, death, freedom, heroism, or it can be about nature. So there are various themes when it comes to literature, okay? And most of the time with poetry, it revolves in these types of themes. Now, another element of poetry is the tone. So tone is the attitude of a writer toward a subject or an audience. So the main point here is the attitude. What kind of attitude is the author or writer trying to portray or trying to instill on the writing or on the poetry? And also the author wanted the readers to feel the same attitude, or it adds to the impact of the poetry. The attitude or the tone can be serious, sarcastic, or angry, and all other emotions or feelings out there, that whatever fits the poem's subject and theme. So let's go to the elements of specific forms or conventional forms of poetry. So let's go to the first one. We have the Tanaga. Tanaga is a Filipino poem. It's like the counterpart of haiku in Japan. Now, Tanaga has 4 lines with 777 syllabic verse. Now, this means that each line has 7 syllables. Okay? And it has a rhyme scheme of AABB. Now, the most common rhyme scheme for Tanaga is AABB. Now, as time goes by, poets or Filipino poets has written Tanaga with other rhyme schemes like AB, AB. So you might see some Tanaga out there with a different rhyme scheme. Now let's take a look at this example. Katitibay ka tulos, sakaling datnang agos, akong mumunting lumot, sa iyo'y pupulupot. Let's first examine if this follows the 777. Let's count the syllables of the first line. Ka, ti, bay, ka, tu, los. Okay, so this first line has 7 syllables. Now, as we go on in each lines, sakaling datnang agos also has 7 syllables. Ako'y mumunting lumot. It has 7 syllables as well. Sa iyo'y pupulupot. And the last line also has 7 syllables. Now let's see the rhyme scheme. So we have here the last word for the first line, tulos. So this represents letter A. And then agos rhymes with tulos. So this also represents A. Lumot. Lumot does not rhyme with the first 2 words that we have, tulos and agos. Now this represents B. Okay? Pupulupot rhymes with lumot, so it represents B as well. So this Tanaga has the AABB rhyme scheme. Now let's go to another form of poetry. Haiku. Haiku is a Japanese poem. It has 3 lines with 575 syllabic verse. So this means that the first line has 5 syllables, the second line has 7 syllables, and the last line has 5 syllables. Haiku does not have any rhyme, or it does not rhyme, and it is mostly based on season or nature. Okay, so let's take a look at this example over here. Now, this haiku is a romanized version of an original Japanese haiku by Basho. Now, it also has a translation right below each line. So, let's see if the following 575 syllabic pattern is followed. Furui keya, so 5 syllables. Kawazu tobikomu, okay, it has 7 syllables. Mizu no oto, so 5 syllables as well. So the translation goes, old pond, a frog leaps in, water's sound. So if it's already translated in the English version, it does not follow the 575 format or syllabic pattern. So if you happen to find haiku that does not follow the 575 format, it may mean that it's already a translated version of the original Japanese haiku, especially by Basho. But if you have to make a haiku from scratch, then you have to follow the 575 format for it to be called a haiku. And remember, the theme should be about nature or seasons, like the summer, fall, spring, autumn, okay, and about nature, the plants, the animals, and anything that represents nature. Okay, so let's go to the next form, which is a limerick. So a limerick is a funny poem. It has 5 lines. The first, second, and fifth line has 7 to 10 syllables, and the third and fourth line has 5 to 7 syllables. And it follows A-A-B-B-A rhyme scheme. So let's take a look at this limerick from Lear, the father of Limerick. There was an old man with a beard who said, "It is just as I feared. 2 owls and a hen, a lark and a wren, have all built their nests in my beard." So this limerick talks about a man with a beard and owls and a hen, a lark and a wren made their nest in his beard. So yeah, okay, so let's check the rhyme scheme here. So beard, feared rhymes with each other, so both of this represents A. Hen, wren represents B because they no longer rhyme with beard and feared, and then again goes back to beard, which represents A. Okay, so the rhyme scheme of this limerick is A, B, A. Next, we have the Cystina. So a Cystina is a 6-stanza poem with 6 lines each, and a 7th stanza is added with 3 lines, or that's what you call your envoy or tornada. Envoy means the end or the last part. Okay? Unlike other poetic forms, Cystina does not rhyme. However, has a rhythmic quality on account of the repetition of 6 end words of the first stanza that recur in the remaining poem. Hence, a Cystina follows the rule of an end word pattern. So the end word pattern goes like this. I know it's a bit confusing. So for example, in the first line, the last word will represent number 1. The last word of the second line will represent number 2. The last word of the third line will represent number 3. The last word of the fourth line will represent number 4. The last word of the fifth line will represent number 5. And the last word of the sixth line will represent number 6. And then the last word of the last line will be repeated in the last word of the first line of the second stanza. Now, as we go on, I know you will get even more confused. Okay, so I will show you this example of a Cystina. Okay, so let's have farm implements and rutabagas in a landscape by John Ashbery. So the first of the undecoded messages read, Popeye sits in thunder. So the last word here is thunder. Thunder represents number 1. Okay, let me write that. Okay, thunder represents number 1. And then unthought of from that shoebox of an apartment. Apartment represents number 2, the word number 2. Okay, then from livid curtains a tangram emerges a country. The word country represents number 3. All right. Meanwhile, the sea hag was relaxing on a green couch. The word couch here will represent number 4. Okay. How pleasant to spend one's vacation on La Casa de Popeye. She scratched. Scratch here represents word number 5. And her cleft chin's solitary hair, she remembered spinach. Spinach represents the word number 6. So again, thunder is 1, apartment is number 2, country is number 3, couch is number 4, scratch is number 5, spinach is number 6. Now please try to remember this, okay? Or it's better that you list it down on a piece of paper as you watch this video. Let's proceed to the second stanza of the Cystina. And was going to ask Wimpy if he had bought any spinach. So what is spinach again? Spinach is number 6. Okay? In love, he intercepted the planes are decked out in thunder. So thunder represents number 1. Today it shall be as you wish, he scratched. So scratch represents number 5. And we have apartment, which represents number 2. Pleasant, which represents number 4. And country represents number 3. Okay, so as you see, here in the second stanza, the words that were used in the first stanza are repeated. Okay? How about we go to the next stanza, the third stanza? There you go. Okay. So the third stanza here, again, we have number 3, country was repeated. So as you see there, country, and then spinach is number 6, pleasant is number 4, thunder is number 1, apartment is number 2, and scratch is number 5. Now, if we go on through the rest of the stanza of this Cystina, then you may see that these words are once again repeated. And if you go back to our pattern, which I showed you earlier, it follows that pattern of repetition of words. So again, Cystina does not have rhymes, okay? It does not have rhymes. However, it follows that word repetition pattern, okay? Now let's go to sonnet. There are two types of sonnet. The Petrarcan sonnet, or it's also called the Italian sonnet, and the Shakespearean sonnet, which is also called the English sonnet. So first, let us go with Petrarcan. So Petrarcan sonnet has 14 lines. The first to 8 lines are called the octave, and the 9th to 14th lines are called sestet. The rhyme scheme of the octave is A B B A A B B A, and the sestet has various rhyme schemes. It can be C D C D C D, or C D D C D C, or C D E C D E, C D E C E D, C D C E D C. Okay, so let's take a look at this Petrarcan sonnet. So I have already placed there the rhyme scheme, but let us check if it's correct. Okay, so hour here represents A. Fen does not rhyme with hour, so it is already letter B. Pen rhymes with fen, so it also represents letter B. Bower rhymes with hour, so it goes back to A. Dower rhymes with bower and hour, so it's also A. And then men rhymes with fen and pen, so it's B. Again, rhymes with men, pen, fen, so it's also B. Power rhymes with dower, bower, hour. It represents A. Apart does not rhyme with any of those words that we had earlier, so it already represents letter C. And then we have C. It does not rhyme with any words up there, so it represents letter D. And free rhymes with C, so it represents letter D. Way does not rhyme with any words up there, so it represents letter E. Heart rhymes with apart, so it represents letter C. And then lay rhymes with way, so it represents letter E. So the rhyme scheme now is A B B A B B A C D D E C E. Okay, so that's an example of your Petrarcan sonnet. So again, the first 8 lines of this sonnet here is called your octave, and the last 6 lines here are called your sestet. Now let's go to the second type of sonnet, which is the Shakespearean. It also has 14 lines with 3 quatrains. 3 quatrains mean it has 3 stanzas with 4 lines each. And the last 2 lines is called your couplet. Okay? So it has a A, B, C, D, E, F, G, G rhyme scheme. Now let's check, or let's see this Shakespearean sonnet written by Shakespeare. Now let's see the rhyme scheme here. Ice represents A, state represents B, Christ rhymes with I, so it's also A, faith rhymes with state, so it's B, and then we have hope. It does not rhyme with anything up there, so it already represents C. Now possessed represents D, scope represents C, least represents D. Now you might be wondering how possessed and least rhyme. Well, in the original script of this Sonnet 29, you can see there the spelling of possessed and least with the same ending letters. Now, that may be the reason why it is considered as rhyming words. There were no explanations online. I was looking for an explanation, but then I saw that original script of this poetry. Let me show you right there. So you see there the possessed and the least. So that's how it is right there. Okay, so let's proceed to the spicing, which represents letter E because it does not rhyme with any words up here. And then state, going back to B. Arising rhymes with the spicing, so it represents E. Gate represents B. And brings represents letter F, as well as kings represents letter F. Now you might be wondering, why is this not following the A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, G, G rhyme scheme? Now, because of this here, the rhyme scheme went back to B, because Shakespeare here is trying to emphasize the feeling of this poetry, which he's trying to go back to that feeling of being sad and alone in that outcast state, bringing that kind of emotion back to this third stanza. Okay, so he's trying to go back, or he can't move on to that kind of emotion, so he also brought it back through the rhyme scheme. Okay, but the standard rhyme scheme for sonnets, Shakespearean sonnets, is A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, G, G. And this sonnet right here is an exception because of the repetition of the state and gate. Okay, so this conventional forms, or the specific elements of these conventional forms, is the first half of the other conventional forms out there. So the rest will be discussed in lesson 4. Okay, the rest will be discussed in lesson 4. Now for your activity, I have here lesson 3 activity. Read the following poetries and answer the questions that follow. The questions are: what is the theme, the tone, and the rhyme scheme of each poetry? Don't forget to write your name as well as your control number. So this has been Teacher Dal. Bye!